First craft show of the year. We're heading to Renegade Craft in San Francisco. I got my bags and my car is parked right over there. I'm at the airport waiting for a shuttle right now. And I've never been to San Francisco. I'm so excited. It's gonna be such a blast. But we just have to do it the day of travel first. So let's get to it. There's an airplane landing. Do you see it? Where is it? Oh, it was taking off. Somewhere up there. Nice. Morning, San Francisco. I'm so excited for Renegade Day 1. This is the first time I've ever done a trip where I, like, spent a whole day yesterday exploring the city. Usually, I do that after the show, and I just feel so excited and, like, I don't know, I don't feel exhausted like I usually do. I feel like that might be the move moving forward, because after the show, I'm always so tired, and I'm like, "I don't even know if I wanna explore, I just wanna have a day off." Really excited about that. I feel fantastic. I would like to say a huge thank you to Renegade Craft for giving me their growth and equity grant. That's really the only reason that this trip was possible. They covered my booth fee of $400 for the show, and I just had to pay for lodging and my flight. My flight wasn't too crazy, and lodging, there's actually a hostel right behind the camera here that's about 30 something dollars a night, and it's right next to the venue. The venue's right behind me. It's this first building right here. I'm very fortunate and grateful. It's about 7 a.m. right now. I have not adjusted to the change of time from North Carolina, so I'm just kind of waking up. I think I'm gonna go to Equator Coffee, which is right down there. I have my luggage over here, and yeah, we're just gonna get this day going. I can get into the fair at 8 and start getting ready, so I'm just gonna take it kind of slow this morning. I have so much time and gonna do a little exploring. Of course, no show is complete without a fit check. So I got the shirt I played with Closet recently. Super cute. I was like, I'm going to wear this for Renegade. They have the cutest little pins this year. I don't know if you can see this. And then my tote bag is from Corey Leota Illustrations. So cool. One of my favorite tote bags. Thanks so much. And see y'all later. All right, y'all are gonna join me for breakfast. I'm at Clear Coffee. I got a everything bagel with cream cheese and a cappuccino. I want to talk a little bit more about this grant that I got to do this show and like how I got it. 'Cause I feel like a lot of you might be interested, and many of you may have applied for the grant before as well. When you apply for Renegade, they give you the option of if you would like to apply for their growth and equity grant. And I always hit yes because I could use the support very much so. I've never gotten it before until now, obviously, but I always just fill it out. And part of my background of overdraft is when Hurricane Helene hit North Carolina, that really disrupted my life. I live in Asheville and I basically had to move away super unexpectedly. And I had to leave my job because I couldn't commute 2.5 hours to work for that job. I thought I was going to move to Chicago, but my boyfriend has a business and I have my jewelry studio, and things were just calling us back to Asheville. So we basically moved back to Asheville starting at nothing. And at that point, I had been out of work for multiple months. I hadn't collected any unemployment. I had a little financial assistance from the Serif Plus grant, which is the Craft Emergency Relief Fund. And I had 3 grand from them, which basically was keeping me afloat for those few months, which I know was really supposed to be used towards my craft. It did allow me to get into the studio and continue working, especially in a time where I just like couldn't figure out what to do. So that was a huge financial setback, being out of work for probably about 4 to 6 months. Come July, I started working at a restaurant, and on the side, I was working for my boyfriend's cleaning business, but it wasn't anything full time, and I was still like very much figuring it out. So that's a little background about overdraft. And when I apply for the growth and equity grant, I usually let them know about that situation and how that impacted me. It can be a little hard sometimes for me to talk about it because I can feel like I don't qualify, or that my story isn't as bad as I think it is, or, it's been over a year now since the hurricane, like I should be recovered. But, the reality is that that was a major life impact that still affects my life today, even if things are like looking better now. I'm still recovering from that. I still have so much debt that I'm trying to pay off, and I really can't be making financial decisions that don't make sense. So, unfortunately, this craft fair, one that I really, really wanted to go to, did not make sense financially. So, I emailed Renegade. I like to let them know in advance if I can't attend an event, just so that way they can open up my spot for someone on the wait list and kind of give them earlier notice. So I kind of immediately emailed them and said like, "Hey, I'm so sorry, but I cannot swing this one." One of their representatives reached out to me and said, "Hey, actually, sent the grant team your grant application. I had them review it again, and we would like to offer you this grant." That was just like the most incredible feeling ever. When I was deciding if I should go to this market or not, I kept having this gut feeling of like, I should not do this. Like, I really want to, but I should not do this. This isn't responsible. This doesn't make sense. This is such a long haul. What if I don't make money? All of these things. And it really was like, I just felt this really big urge to say no and decide that it was not the right decision for me. And when I got that grant, it almost felt like, "Oh, like, is this the reason why I felt so pushed to say no?" Was because there was something kind of waiting for me at the end of it. If I had paid that fee, I don't know if they would have reviewed my grant again or not. Yeah, so I'm kinda grateful that it worked out the way that it did. But if you're applying for the growth and equity grant, I would just recommend telling your true story and talking about your needs. If you're somebody who needs help doing these and it just doesn't make sense for you financially, talk about that. And I think they have a really good team of people who want artists to be able to attend and make this market accessible. On a totally different note, one thing about me is that I love an everything bagel, and I make this mistake every single time I do a market is that I'm like, "Ooh, I want an everything bagel." And I'm gonna have stuff in my teeth all day. I'm gonna smell like onion. I have gum in my bag, but like, girl, why do I do this to myself? Also, fatal mistake, I totally forgot to wear jewelry today, which is like Idiot, but I'm just gonna borrow some of my own inventory. My hostel is so close, I could walk back, so we'll just kinda see how time allows, but I have enough inventory with me today where I can wear it today, and then, hopefully tomorrow I won't have enough inventory where I can do that again, but we will see. Oh my gosh, the wall is turning out so good. I'm so excited, this is so beautiful. It's a little tricky, but it's, like, not enough. Just hard to get it lined up right. So perfect. I'm listening to that, sitting in happy. I'm one happy gal. I'm really happy with my setup considering that this all fit into a suitcase. The only thing I didn't pack was the chair back there, which I rented from the vet notes. But this clothing rack totally comes apart. And then my table, I just got the same sign. I just used the magnet that have a adhesive on the back. And I just magneted it to the table. And I probably mention it every single video, but this just goes right into my suitcase. Super easy. I brought just one suitcase, one checked bag, and one carry-on, and that was it. We are 1 hour in, and I've already made from Logan $365 in savings.
What?
So I'm able to film for the first time in my 8-person hostel. I have my bed right over here. I need to pack up. I'm getting ready to go, and everyone else has left, so it's just me left. But this has been such a nice hostel. The venue is right there, and I can actually see it from my window. Let me turn my camera so you can see. The closest one right there is the venue. So very, very convenient, and it's nice to see that. It was a great weekend. I think San Francisco is such a uniquely beautiful city, kind of unlike anywhere I've ever been before. However, I will say this is the most expensive city I've ever been to. Like, I was not prepared for the price of a simple meal here. And I kept going to these places that looked like they would be cheap, and the food was like not good quality, and I would still end up spending like $20 to $30 depending. That was a little bit disappointing. However, the sushi place was really fun. The sushi was not the best quality in my opinion. It was like the experience of it, of like seeing it on the conveyor belt and like grabbing it off, and also ordering from like the touchscreen and it would come on the bullet train. That was just really fun. So it was worth it. It was like a little gimmicky, but like, you know, we only live once, so we gotta do it. I'm sure you guys are curious about how the weekend went. Day one, Saturday, kicked ass. It was so good. I made $950. I sold 6 pieces. Well, 5 pieces and a sticker. I was so stoked. I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. People were saying it was slower than usual. People were saying that their sales weren't that good. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this is like my best day one ever. This kicks ass so hard. Like, day two is going to be even better. I called both my parents. I called my boyfriend. I was like, oh my god, this is going to be so good. And day two, traffic wise, was like so much busier. Somehow it felt a little bit more like people browsing or just going for something to do rather than to shop. And I only sold 2 items on the second day, which did end up coming out to $485. So I can't complain. However, based on how day one went, I was really hoping that at least I'd hit like 800 if it was a little bit slower than the first day. So that was a little bit interesting to me. I don't know why the vibe was so different. There was more going on. There was a farmer's market, which I think brought in more traffic, but maybe people had already spent money by the time they came to the craft fair. But all in all, for the weekend, I'm sitting at $1,435, which I think is pretty good. I would definitely be curious to see what I spent on food. I need to go home and like do my little spreadsheets and figure that out, because I know I spent way more than I budgeted for on food. I usually plan for $15 a meal 3 times a day when I go on these trips, and every single meal was at least $20. And then I was also getting like coffee or matcha or whatever because I was tired and I was like going. I definitely like blew my budget really hard, which never happens. I usually go under budget on shows because I can be really frugal. But even here, like when I was looking up cheap restaurants and stuff, like it just was so hard for me to find cheap food. Last night, I finally found a place that sold pizza by the slice that was in walking distance from here. But even one slice of pizza was $7, which is crazy to me coming from North Carolina, where, you know, like 350 is expensive for a slice of pizza there. Maybe not expensive, maybe average, but I'm very grateful that Renegade covered my booth fee. That made my expenses, my intended expenses, to be only about $850. I'd imagine that my expenses were probably closer to 1,000, if not slightly more. Then that would leave my profit in like the $300 or so range, maybe 400. However, that doesn't include my cost of goods sold. So when I factor that in, I have a feeling that this trip was like a true break even. And that's kind of a bummer because I really would like to come here again. This is such a cool city and I had so much fun, and I did it very cheap by staying in the hostel, and you know, I tried everything to cut expenses on this trip. And so to break even when I didn't have to pay the 400 booth fee is a little bit scary, because if I pay that booth fee in the future, I don't really know what the result will be. With that said, I do wonder if having a half booth was prohibiting my sales a little bit. I think that in this market, with how busy it was, if I had a front facing table, it would have been easier to gain a little traction versus if people had to walk into the booth like they did and there were 2 vendors and we were both kind of sideways. And I had my jewelry wall kind of angled to the side like this so people could see it as they walked by, which I think was useful, and that definitely grabbed a lot of attention. However, I just don't really know if people were as engaged. Also, the vendor next to us was selling beverages, and they were delicious, by the way. I did have one at the very end of the market, but that drew in a really big crowd, and the line for the beverages was actually like going along the front of our booth. And I think my booth mate was also like, like, should we say something? Like, just to try to get people to like break up the line a little bit. But it was just hard because people kept joining the line, and as it was moving, it would fill back in. So we would have to do that every like two or three people and be like, hey, could you guys just like leave a little space? But then there's a problem of them blocking the next vendor and the next vendor and whatever. So we kind of just let it be. However, I do feel like that was something a little difficult. I feel like if someone's selling like food and beverage, it would be really nice if they had like a food and beverage area of the market, because I feel like that does tend to form lines, and it's just really hard when it's like this big massive room full of so many people and there's just really nowhere for them to go. They're gonna have to block your booth. So I think on day two, that was not the most helpful thing ever, but I am really happy for that vendor. It seemed like they had such a successful weekend. They only had one keg left at the very end when I got my drink, and I think that we like pretty much almost finished it off. So really, really happy for them. I think I heard from other vendors that this one was kind of like so, like not the best, not the worst. And that's kind of how I feel too. It's kind of funny thinking about it because I think in the past when I would make $1,400 in a weekend, I'd be like, oh my God, that's so much money. Like, that's amazing. But now that I've done this more, I'm starting to think about all the expenses and what went into this. And it's just like, wow, like that was a lot of travel, a lot of work. I had to go up and down like crazy hills and stairs. And, I did so much. I'm so exhausted. And just to kind of break even, is that worth it? I do feel like this market felt a little bit less like a marketing market than ones I've done in the past. I think in the past, I would often go and give out so many business cards and give out so many stickers and so many email signups and so many zines, and just like boom, 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 people are finding me. However, for this one, for some reason, I felt like people didn't really want to take the freebies. On the second day, there was definitely more people signing up for the email newsletter and taking my business cards, taking the stickers, etc. But it definitely felt like less than usual, and I don't really know what the reason is for that. I do remember when I was in Nashville at Porter Flea, people were like afraid to take my free stickers. Like, I'd be like, oh, here's a free sticker. They were like, I'm good. And Nashville's just like its own unique vibe, so I kind of expect that from there. I like Nashville, but the people are definitely like a different vibe than these bigger cities. But here, it was a little bit strange to me when people were a little bit like almost like bashful when they're in a big city. So that's kind of my wrap up of this market. Thank you so much for following me along on my travels, and this is my first time doing like a real intentional vlog of the trip. So I hope you enjoy this. If you want to see more of it, let me know. If you have anything else that you want to see, let me know. Please like and subscribe. Of course, that would be so helpful. I'm trying to get monetized this year on YouTube. I am 2% of the way there, so, slowly but surely. Thanks y'all so much. Appreciate you.